The epoxy-based Metal Effects by Euclid Chemicals Increte brand is a high-performance, highly chemical and abrasion-resistant interior flooring system. Available in 10 standard colors, these base colors can be combined and mixed in an almost endless array of possible shades.
Before we take you through the Metal Effects application process, let's talk a little bit about your concrete and whether or not it's a good candidate for the Metal Effects system. The Increte High Performance Epoxy is a 100% solids floor coating. 100% solids, these high solids means it gives you those attributes such as great chemical resistance and superior abrasion resistance. However, high solids also means it doesn't allow for any vapor transmission through your slab. So you need to determine whether your slab has too much moisture before you can proceed. There are several tests that you can conduct to do this. One method is called the relative humidity test. There's the testing equipment on the market, fairly inexpensive, that you can purchase that will determine these readings for you. If you use the relative humidity test, you're looking for a reading of 75% or less. More common is the VTR, or the vapor transmission rate. Again, testing equipment available. If you use this test, you're looking for a reading of 3 pounds or less per 1,000 square feet over 24 hours. A lot more common and a lot less expensive is the plastic test. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a sheet of 1 foot by 1 foot poly. We're going to duct tape it to the ground. I like to do this in 3 or 4 different areas so I know I get a good average reading. You let it sit for 24 hours. At the end of 24 hours, we're going to peel that tape up. Any condensation at all underneath that plastic, and there's too much moisture in the slab. If that plastic is dry, you're good to go and you can proceed with your Metal Effects project.
The first step in prep is to thoroughly clean and degrease the surface. Increte's Grease Away is engineered to do just that. Even if you don't see oil, grease, or other stains, this step should not be skipped. Next, we need to profile or open the porosity of the concrete surface. Interior concrete is typically steel or power trowel to a smooth, tight surface. While the epoxy will have a strong chemical bond to the concrete, we want to ensure a good mechanical bond as well. An ICRI profile of number 2 or number 3 will do nicely. We can accomplish this by mechanically sanding, track blasting, or scarifying. Once our surface is clean, porous, and dry, it is time to begin the application of our Metal Effects.
It is highly recommended that you apply a primer coat. This will not only provide better adhesion of your Metal Effects coat, but will help reduce any outgassing tiny air bubbles that may occur as the product works its way into the concrete slab. Prime Coat is an easy-to-use, water-based 2-part epoxy engineered for this purpose. We have selected to add a unit of Metal Effects powder to help tint the prime coat. While not necessary, it will help provide a base color should the Metal Effects be spread too thin in areas. Rather than see concrete show through, we will have color to help mask our error. Mix the Metal Effects powder into part A of the prime coat using a variable speed drill with a mixing paddle. Once thoroughly mixed, add part B and mix for 3 minutes per directions. Roll the prime coat down using a brush to cut in the edges and corners of the floor. Now that our primer is dry, we can proceed with the metal effects coat. Increte's 2-to-1 high performance epoxy is available in 1 and 3 gallon kits, as is the metal effects additive. Our job is big enough to use a 3 gallon kit, as we will only get about 50 square feet per gallon on the coverage. Remember, the metal effects is a powdered additive, and applications thinner than 40 mils may not get 100% hide. Again, we mix the metal effects into part A of the epoxy. We can do this hours, even days before the actual job. Today, we are using a combination of 2 parts pearl and 1 part steel, which should result in a very light gray color. Always make samples and do a test area to ensure a happy client. Once our metal effects is in, we add part B, the cure, to the resin. Since this uses a chemical reaction of resin and cure to dry and harden, it's imperative that we get a completely thorough mix. Always use a drill or power mixer to blend part A and B together. We'll mix for a minimum of 3 minutes, scraping the bottom and sides of the container to ensure a thorough job. For larger jobs, it's a good idea to have one person mixing while the other spreads the product out. And this ensures a wet edge is maintained and makes the project go faster and smoother. We pour the epoxy out in ribbons before spreading with a lightweight or notch squeegee. If we let the epoxy sit in the bucket, the heat from the chemical reaction will greatly shorten our working time. Use a brush to cut in the edges and a roller or a magic trowel to even out the coating. You'll notice we're using spiked platform boots that will allow us to walk into the wet material if necessary. Once the material is down, you can just leave it out to cure. As the epoxy self-levels, the metal effects is dispersed around. Advanced procedures include using denatured alcohol in a hand spritzer to create unusual effects. A leaf blower or compressed air can also be used to move the material around and create a billowy or cloud-like effect. Further techniques include using 2 or more colors. Curing times will vary depending on temperature and humidity, but usually leaving the area set overnight does the trick. Today, we are going to use Increte's water-based urethane as a top coat to increase abrasion resistance. Increte makes both a solvent-based and water-based version of its toughest nails urethane top coat. If your customer wants a deep wet look, a coat of clear 2-to-1 epoxy can be used prior to your urethane coat. We recommend keeping foot traffic off the surface for an additional 24 hours and vehicle traffic for 3 days. It can take up to a week to achieve full cure of these amazingly tough surfaces. So there you have it, a unique and beautiful surface, a work of art that is tough and durable. Metal Effects by Euclid's Increte systems